Hey everyone, it is Amelia. Welcome to Module 2, where we're going to talk a little bit about the structure of serials. And we're just going to do a brief overview of serials and their structure throughout different types of media. So we are going to start with TV. A lot of people watch TV, and if you have, you might have heard of the show Lost. So Lost is, I don't want to give away any of the plot. Basically, people get into a plane crash on an island. That's the gist of it. There are about 6 seasons, I think 20-ish episodes per season. And as you can see, it follows a huge cast. There's a couple main characters, but all of the characters that you see, especially in this image, they have specific roles in the serial that you as the viewer can watch unfold throughout the season, throughout multiple seasons. And what's really cool about Lost is they do have these cliffhangers that most of the time they leave off on every episode. But they also have season cliffhangers, and they also have stories that are threaded throughout the seasons as well as or throughout the season and throughout all of the seasons and the whole show together. So you're constantly on your toes. New things are being uncovered every episode, and they're never going to give you they're never going to resolve all the problems in one episode. They're never going to resolve all the problems in one season, and they're never going to give you the entire story. They might give you bits and pieces of different people and their life on this island that they're stranded on. They have a lot of secrets that they keep, but it's constantly that up and down. You never know what's going to happen. Sometimes it's constantly, oh my gosh, I think this is going to happen, and something totally different happens. So I feel like Lost is a really good example of a TV show that's constantly up and down, and it hooks you in and keeps you wanting to see what's going to happen next and how everything is going to unfold and how this huge cast meshes together. But for TV also, other examples that we'll get into are um, dramas, and we'll talk about those in a little bit. Next, we're going to talk about comics. So I have not specifically read this comic, but it is super popular on Webtoon. Webtoon publishes serial comics. And basically, it is about this guy who is in this lit RPG like world, and he's fighting these monsters, and it's a constant up and down. There's cliffhangers, you don't know what's going to happen next, and you wanna know what's going to happen next once you get to the end of that episode. So it's constantly pulling you in, and I believe they are at season 8, so long, long time. Next, we have animation. I would say Attack on Titan is a really good example of a serial that was able to hook you in, leave you on cliffhangers. You never know where the story's going to go. It's fairly long. I believe it's 5, 5-ish seasons. But this is a really good example, in my opinion, of a serial that did not have any fluff to it. All of the characters meant something. They all have their own stories. They're never just the villain for the most part. One episode, you can hate the person, a specific character. In the next episode, you see their backstory and you're like, oh, I love them, but I also hate them. And they utilize their characters really well in order to progress the story and move the serial forward. Next, we have social media. An example of serial on social media, and this is very small, but if you're ever scrolling on TikTok or even Instagram Reels, you might come across somebody who's telling a story, and they use all of their time telling this story, and at the very end it's getting to the climax of the story, and you're super excited to learn what happened after you listen to this girl talk for a minute. And then she's, if you want to see what's going to happen next, you have to follow, subscribe, whatever it is, whatever platform you're on, and like for part 2. And you'll go to part 2 because you wanna know what's gonna happen in the story. You go to part 2, you listen to what happened, the drama, everything after that cliffhanger, and the story continues to go on, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, this is crazy." And you get to the end of that video, and they're like, "If you want more, it's part 3. Go to part 3," and you are just scrolling through all of this person's like, all of their videos, and some of these videos have, like, 20 plus parts to them, and it's really interesting to see serials like that in real life, and so not fiction storytelling. Next, we have audio serials. So, yes, you can do serials in audio, you can do it in comics, literally anywhere for any different storytelling way. So, a lot of audio serials are audio dramas that keep you pulled in for an extended period of time. One of these is called My Vampire System. And this specific book or serial is on Pocket FM. My husband has been listening to this nonstop because it's constantly pulling him in. It's constantly giving more characters. You want to know what's happening to this guy who has these abilities. And what's really interesting is this specific book is, I think it's at 2,000 episodes. This is a really good example of a serial that can go on and on forever, almost. If you're looking for something to do some research on and see, like, how a book can go on that long, check out My Vampire System. Yeah. Next, we're gonna be talking about written serials. An example of a written serial is Torn Between Alphas. This is a spicy werewolf romance where there's a girl and there's 2 werewolf alphas that are trying to get her in a romantic way. So this one was very popular on Wattpad and Radish for a while, and it's just basically their story as well as their friends as well. So those are a few examples of serials across different media, and we will be getting into how to structure your stories for different forms of medias, but we're going to talk specifically about writing. Right. I will see you in the next episode. Just kidding. I will see you in the next section.